Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Elliot Parker, and whether you're a writer, a reader, or just a lover of words, I invite you to stop what you're doing and join me for a page break. Happy 2023. It's hard to believe here we are, the month of January, and it's already 2023. And at the time of recording this episode on the channel, we're already halfway through January. So time is flying by. It's really going fast, and hope you had a good holiday and everything. We took some time away from the channel to celebrate with friends and family and to celebrate the holidays and ring in the new year with those folks. So we're re-energized, we're reinvigorated, we're back, and we're excited for some more great content here as we talk about books, we interview authors, we talk about publishing industry news, and everything else in between right here on Page Break. So we're back and ready to go in 2023 with our first episode on the channel. So if you just joined us for the first time, so glad to have you. Welcome to the channel. I invite you to go over here and click the subscribe button, which is over here, I think down at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Make us a regular part of your YouTube channel listing and channel library and viewing YouTube channel selection. We hope that you will do that and follow up and follow us and keep in contact with everything we've got going on here on the channel. If you're watching this episode on Instagram, please be sure that you like the video if you do, and leave some comments in the comments fields, and we'll be sure to get to those comments and get to those questions as those come up. And we also invite you to engage in a discussion in the comments fields below on the YouTube channel as well. So really excited to kick off 2023. The focus of this channel is to talk about new releases by brand new authors that have just come out in 2023, and also talk about some new releases from some older authors that have just come out in 2023. And if you're a big reader and you've been following sort of publishing trends and you know a little bit about sort of the inside baseball part of publishing, you know that one of the things that always tended to happen years ago was the month of January was a little bit of a slow period in new book releases and a little bit of a slow period in publishing, mainly because you had the holidays connecting the end of December with the first part of January, but also a lot of publishers, both big publishers, small publishers, independent publishers, and university presses had sort of cleared out their catalog from the previous year for the holidays, because the book buying season is such a major time for publishers of all shades and stripes to sell a lot of their works to the public. People are looking for Christmas gifts. They're looking for birthday gifts for folks that have birthdays in November and December, thinking about you gifts and all those kinds of things. So it's a huge period in publishing and sales in terms of getting those books out there and getting them in the hands of readers. And so January was always kind of this slow period in publishing. That's not the case anymore. January is running wide open in terms of brand new releases that are coming out and books that are being released to the public. We're going to talk about 5 releases today, 5 new releases on the channel. I won't get to all of the ones that I've read. I'll put the titles and the authors in the comments fields in the summary section of the channel. So when I summarize kind of what this episode's about, I'll put some of the other books that I've read that I don't have time to get to today because we don't want to make this video an hour long, but I'll mention some of those that I've read that I'm not going to feature on the channel. Folks, I've got to tell you, if 2023 is any indication of what has come out already in January of 2023, if this is any indication of what the rest of 2023 is going to look like, this is going to be a terrific year for books and a terrific year for those of us that like to read and talk about books. And I'm telling you, I thought 2022 was an outstanding year for books and reading, but I'm telling you, 2023 is shaping up to be a really outstanding year. And so we're going to talk about a few of those books here today. The first one I wanted to start off with, this is a new book by a veteran author who I think is just getting better and better with each and every release that he has. His name is T.J. Brereton. This is his brand new book. It's called Her Husband's Lies. This book is centered on a character named Callie, whose husband is coming back from a work assignment on a rural road in the Adirondacks Mountains in upstate New York. And his car goes off the road, and his car goes into a lake. He survives. He's pulled from the lake. He's rescued. He survives, but he's in a coma. And so Callie is trying to pick up her life and sort of piece together everything that's happening to her while her husband's still in a coma. She and her husband do not have enough money to pay for his care, so she is basically exhausting through her savings and exhausting through every piece of money and stock and everything that they have available to generate money to pay for his care. Meanwhile, she has a son who is in college away from school, and she's trying to check on him and make sure that he's doing okay as he deals with this tragedy in their life. And so as Callie's dealing with all of those things and trying to manage all of those things, she gets a call from a mysterious woman who says, "I don't don't think what happened to your husband was an accident. I think there was something going on there that was not an accident, because the investigation you find out early in the book, the investigation, the police, everybody that kind of comes and looks at it, the forensics folks, all of those guys and gals that look at the crime scene or the accident scene, basically said this was just an accident. This was just a case of slick roads late at night in the wintertime, and your husband just lost control of his vehicle, careened off the side of the road and into the lake. This woman comes in and says, hey, no, that didn't happen. I think there was something more going on here. And so there's this whole story of Callie having to go back and start to question what she's been told about what actually has happened to her husband. And she's having to have connections and contact with this mysterious woman who she doesn't really know, but she's sort of forced to trust her. I loved this book. I couldn't put this book down from the minute that I grabbed it. You know, T.J. Brereton is so good at psychological suspense. I feel like that we've seen this trope in mysteries and thrillers over the last couple of years, where there's been an accident, there's been a murder, and there's a certain set of parameters and circumstances established by the victim's family and friends, and also the investigators who have looked into what's happened. And then we see a mysterious letter, a mysterious phone call arrive to the protagonist, and we have to find out, is it true? Is it not? Can they be trusted? Can this person be trusted? Can this letter be trusted? Who sent it? Why? And all of that. I feel like that's been a trope we're seeing a lot in mystery and thriller novels here lately, but T.J. Brereton does it so well. He takes this trope and really adds an extra dimension to it. What I love about this book is there are chapters within the story where you are just inside Callie's sort of perspective, inside her mind, and you were kind of feeling and kind of walking with her and through her all of the feelings and emotions and second guessing and questioning and everything that she's got going on in her mind. You're there. It's just Callie kind of within her own thoughts in a lot of the chapters of the book. I love that, because we really get to know her as a character, and we really get to feel the palpable sense of stress and fear and tension that she has as she's trying to make sure her husband gets the care that he needs, but also find out, is this woman right? Did something really happen to my husband that is not what the police told me when they were investigating the crime? Brereton has been writing some really, really terrific thrillers and psychological thrillers for a long time. He's got a great series around an FBI agent named Shannon Ames, which I would highly encourage you to check out. Really, really good, really pulse-pounding thrillers with Shannon Ames. She's a young, inexperienced FBI agent in that series. But this is his brand new book. Again, it's called Her Husband's Lies. Fantastic, a terrific read. He just keeps getting better and better. I just fall in love more and more with each book that he produces and each book that he writes. And again, he has really, really established himself, I think, as someone who is a master of psychological suspense, a master of really taking you inside these characters, and you really, really learn both the good guys, quote unquote, and the bad guys and gals, quote unquote. You really get inside their heads and find out what makes them tick and what motivates them. So I'd highly recommend you check out this book. It's a new release, just came out in January 2023. Although, as I mentioned, TJ has been writing books for quite a long time, and he just gets better and better at it. The second book I want to talk about is another new book that takes place in late 1800s in 1894 in London, England. It involves two men, two women, and the love story that binds them and also breaks them apart. It is called The New Life. It is by an author named Tom Crew. And this book is set, as I mentioned, in late 1890s London. And England is going through a transformational change as a society and as a culture. The Victorian era is ending. They are sort of moving on from some of those stodgy, stowed policies and cultural mores that have guided them through the latter half of the 19th century, and things are changing, and that is kind of the impetus or the backdrop for this book. So I just wanted to read to you just a few sentences from the summary so you get a general sense of what is going on. It's the summer of 1894. John Addington and Henry Ellis are collaborating on a book, arguing that what they call sexual inversion is a natural, harmless undertaking and should be decriminalized. John is a wealthy scholar with 3 grown daughters and a wife named Catherine. Henry is young and progressive. He's a member of the forward-thinking Society of the New Life, and he and his wife Edith intend to have a newer, freer kind of marriage. And what ends up happening is they are working on this book, and they're going to take a lot of heat for publishing it and releasing it, and you find out why that is in the story. But also what happens, there's a driving force that happens in the story, and that is Oscar Wilde is arrested. And once Oscar Wilde is arrested and people start learning in the society what he's being arrested for and why he's being arrested, that really implicates and impacts both John and Henry as they try to release this book. What also happens in this story is John and Henry fall in love with one another as they continue to develop this book and as they continue to cultivate and investigate their feelings towards each other. So there's so much going on here, again, set against the backdrop of the changing times of late 1890s London, England. But I loved this book. I thought both of these characters, both Henry and John, and their two wives are very similar in a lot of ways, but they're so different in a lot of ways. And they kind of hover and interact with each other's orbits as the book unfolds. And you really get a sense for why these two men think that this book is important and why this is the time in English society to release this book. So I would categorize this as an LGBTQ historical fiction read. There are elements of Victorian society, late Victorian society, and on the cusp of change as they move into the 20th century, as the society moves into the 20th century, that I think you'll find interesting and fascinating. If you're a history buff and you kind of like that period of history, you're going to enjoy that. But if you just want a good character-driven story that is just beautifully written, there are sentences, there are paragraphs in here that just make you stop and kind of blink and think, wow, that was so beautifully written. I've got all kinds of examples in this book of passages that I highlighted, passages that I, drew lines under because they were just so beautifully written. And I found myself reading them over and over again because the language is just so wonderful. So this is great. If you like historical fiction, you like LGBTQ stories and kind of how those two things are intertwined, you're going to love this book. You're going to love The New Life. Tom Crew is the author. Highly recommend it. Really enjoyed it. It's a great, great read. And I think it's going to be something that you're really going to want to add to your to-be-read pile. It's a brand new book from him. He's had some other publications in other avenues, but this is really his first kind of historical novel dealing with LGBTQ themes and LGBTQ characters. So a writer who has really kind of branched out and has done something new with his work. That's called The New Life, Tom Crew. Great, great story. Highly recommend you read that one. The next one is back to sort of the mystery and thriller theme. This book is called The House in the Pines. This is by a debut author as well. Her name is Anna Reyes. And this is a book that I absolutely loved. I could not put it down. Once I got to reading it, once I got into it, I think I finished it in a day and a half. I just could not put it down once I got into it. It grips you from the first page and takes you all the way through. It was a recent Reese's Book Club selection, if you're familiar with that. But I'll just read to you a little bit of what this is about. It deals with a couple of themes of subtlety, kind of the subtleties of memory and manipulation. And in this book, a young woman must find her way back to a New England cabin, armed with only hazing, haunting memories, to uncover the truth of what could save her. And this involves a character who we meet in high school. Her name was Maya. Her best friend Aubrey mysteriously dropped dead in front of a man named Frank, who they had been spending time with that summer. So the three of them had been living together, and all of a sudden, Aubrey drops dead mysteriously in front of both of them, and that really propels the story forward, and you figure out what Maya is looking for, why does that memory haunt her so bad, and how does that dovetail into her current experience and her current situation. So we fast forward in this book 7 years later. Maya is living in Boston with a loving boyfriend, and she's trying to kick a secret addiction that she's been hiding from him and kind of hiding from other people, which is a result of the trauma that she experienced when her friend dropped dead in front of her 7 years ago. So I won't say too much more about it. That kind of gives you a general taste of what the book is about, but this is just a fantastic book. I just loved it. Maya is a wonderful character. She's so well developed. You really get a sense of who she is, and you really feel sorry for her, I think, in many ways, because of the trauma that she's experienced. You sympathize with her, you feel sorry for her, but she's very tough. She's very smart, but she's also vulnerable. And she's vulnerable in the ways that I think many readers can identify with, because we've all been in circumstances like she's experiencing. Maybe not to the level that she's experiencing, but we've all had experiences that takes us a long time to get over. And we've had loss, and we've had circumstances that have happened to us, and we all try to come up with and cover up and deal with those issues in a variety of different ways, cover up our sadness and our stress and anxiety in different ways. Maya's very much one of those characters. But you're going to love this book. Again, a debut book by a brand new writer named Anna Reyes. And I tell you what, she's got a bright future, because this is a terrific debut thriller. And I think if she keeps going at the rate she's going with this writing style and with these kinds of flawed but really vulnerable and well developed and well rounded and well defined characters, she's going to have a great career as a writer. So I'm really looking forward to reading more of her stuff, and maybe we'll see Maya again. I'll just leave that as a little bit of a teaser there. Maybe we'll see Maya pop up again in a future book. We'll just have to see. But highly recommend, if you like mysteries and thrillers that you just can't put down and won't get anything else done once you get started reading, you're going to love that book as well. I'm going to sort of change gears with my fourth selection. This is a young adult book, and it's a book that I loved and identified with a lot. It's called Take a Bow, Noah Mitchell. If you like young adult books, and if you have someone in your family, maybe a son or a daughter or a niece or a nephew who is a big gamer and plays Fortnite and plays all of those games, wears the headset and is always playing games with people, RPGs and other kinds of things, you're going to really love this book, and you're really going to identify with this book very well. It is written by an Australian author named Tobias Madden. This book actually came out last year in Australia. It debuted in Australia, and it has now finally made its way to the United States. And it also is a new book by a relatively new author in Tobias Mitchell, who is Australian, but it was released in January here in the United States. And Tobias is currently on an extensive book tour. But I love this book for a lot of reasons. And I'll just read you sort of a few excerpts of what it's about. The log line for this is, there are no cheat codes for showmance. No cheat codes for showmance. And this story follows 17-year-old gamer Noah Mitchell, who only has one friend left, an online relationship that he has with someone named Mage Pants 69, who is wonderful and funny, but they only have this online relationship. They've been playing RPGs together for years, Noah and this Mage Pants 69. They know everything about each other. They know everything about what they like, what they don't like, everything about their personalities, but they haven't given away anything that would let you know what their real identities are. And Noah is convinced, we find out early in the novel, that if they could meet in person for the first time, that they would be best friends and that they would have the kind of relationship that he has always wanted. And so what we have unfolding there after that, and Noah just saying, admitting and you learn that he would do anything to make that meetup happen. He finally decides to leave his gaming chair. He joins a community theater show that he finds out Mage Pants 69 is performing in. So he volunteers to join the theater show just for the opportunity to meet him, and the story really takes off from there. I loved this book. I'm not a big YA reader, but one of the things I have decided to do, and one of the commitments I've made to myself this year in 2023, is to read more YA literature, mainly because I've got a lot of colleagues and friends and relatives who have kids who are in this age range of YA adult literature, and they're reading all kinds of YA adult books, and my friends and relatives and colleagues are reading along with them, and they're always talking about these great YA books that their kids are reading. So I want to be a part of that conversation, right? I don't want to be in a FOMO situation and missing out on that. So I want to do that, but also want to broaden my horizons of YA literature. I think the last YA lit series I read all the way through was The Maze Runner by James Dashner, which is super good. And if you're looking for a picky YA reader who won't get into reading, you're trying to get him to get into reading, start with The Maze Runner, have him go through all of James Dashner's books. Super good, super great. But I haven't really read a lot since then. And this book brought me back. Noah Mitchell's book, or excuse me, not Noah Mitchell's book. He was the last author. Tobias Madden's book brought me back to, Noah Mitchell's the character. Tobias Mitchell brought me back to why I love young adult literature and why I love The Maze Runner and Harry Potter and all of those things that have come out before. Noah Mitchell is such a great kid. He's just the kind of kid you kind of want to wrap your arms around and squeeze. But again, if you've got someone in your life who likes to identify with, it plays games a lot and sort of has this totally online presence in this gaming world or in these gaming universes that they inhabit, you're going to love this book. They're going to love this book. And what happens when Noah and Mage Pants 69 meets is just wonderful. This book is funny. It's touching. It has moments that just kind of make you go, oh, as you read it, but just really well done. A really great story. It's a story that connects so much to where we are as a society today, where a lot of our kids are in terms of how they interact and engage and develop relationships. And I think Tobias has probably written a book here that's going to be on the bestseller list for young adult literature. But I think this time at the end of 2023, when we're going back and giving out book awards for YA literature, I think this book's going to be at the top of the list. It's that good. I loved it. And it made me fall in love with YA literature and reminded me why I liked YA literature so much in the past. And it's made me want to get back into it more. So terrific book. Tobias Madden is the author. The title of it again is Take a Bow, Noah Mitchell. You're going to absolutely love it. Really, really great. Get it for your son or daughter, especially if they like gaming and video games and they have all this already developed. Or if you just want a good book that you and your young A reader could read together, it's terrific. Absolutely fantastic, and I loved it. My fifth book is another mystery thriller. And folks, this book blew me away. This was a book I had read mainly because I'd heard so much hype about it. And I'm the kind of reader that sometimes when I read books that are hyped, I'm like, yeah, I can see why. But there's been a lot of cases in recent years where I've read the books that have been really hyped, and I just kind of thought, it's okay. It's not great, but it's pretty good. This one lives up to the hype and then some. And you've probably heard of this book. It is written by an author, a female author who grew up in northern India, and she worked for several years as a journalist in New Delhi, which is the capital of India. Her name is I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Deepti Kapoor. Deepti Kapoor. Deeptikapoor. The title of the book is called Age of Vice. It was a Good Morning America book selection, one of their first book selections in early January of 2023. And this book lives up to the hype and then some. This book is fantastic. It's a thick book. It's a thicker book than maybe what you would see for most mysteries and thrillers. In fact, it's almost 530 pages long, but it doesn't feel like 530 pages. You are going to rip through this and tear through this almost immediately and get to the point where you will get nothing else done because you'll want to keep reading and keep turning the pages through this story. This story is about the age of vice, where pleasure and power and everything that ties a family together can also kill them. Okay, so here's just a little bit about this. In New Delhi at 3 a.m., the book opens up. A speeding Mercedes jumps the curb. In the blink of an eye, 5 people are dead. In a rich man's car, it's a rich man's car that's involved, but when the dust settles, there's no rich man at all. Just a shell-shocked servant who can't explain the strange series of events that led to this crime, nor can he foresee the dark drama that is about to unfold. And this book shifts kind of from that scene through time and perspective. We get a real good insight again into contemporary India, the cultures, the values, the mores that kind of drive not only Indian society, but also family ties and binds and how families interact and come together and pull apart when circumstances change. It's just a wonderful story about seductive wealth, startling corruption, bloodthirsty violence. We follow the Wadia family, who is loved by some in Indian society. They are loathed by others. And what was their involvement in this car crash that killed these 5 people? How were they tied into the Wadia family? Were they tied in? Who was involved? Who was tied into those 5 people in what ways? It's got everything you love in a thriller in terms of the pacing. It's action-packed. It just propels at such a fantastic pace, but it's got the corruption, it's got the violence, it's got the betrayal, it's got the characters manipulating one another, everything that you expect in a mystery and thriller. I loved it because I learned a lot about Indian society that I didn't know. I learned a lot about Indian culture, but again, on the family side, the familial side, how families interact, how they come together, how they're able to deal with tragedy, how they're able to deal with one another when things just don't start adding up and a few people are acting a little bit shady and a little bit different than maybe they should. But it's wonderful. It's called The Age of Vice. Deepti Kapoor is the author. I hope I pronounced her name correctly. I'm pretty sure that I did. But I think, again, sort of like I was talking about with Tobias Mitchell's book a moment ago, I really, really think this is going to be a story. This may be the best book of the year, folks. This may be not just the mystery thriller of the year when all the awards come out at the end of 2023. This may be the best book of 2023. It is that good. I really, really struggled to read this all the way through because I couldn't wait to find out what happened. But at the same time, I wanted to also sit back and just savor everything that I was reading and everything that I was learning about this family and Indian culture and society. I just wanted to do both at the same time. I didn't want to stop reading, but also wanted to slow down and really enjoy it. It is a fantastic book. The best book, probably my favorite book that I've read so far in 2023, because it has so many things that I like as a reader with the mystery thriller genre, but it's so much more richly layered and nuanced than that. Can't recommend Kapoor's book highly enough. So those are the 5 books that I think by debut authors who are releasing their first book, as well as new releases by authors who've been writing for a little while. Those are the 5 that I have really, really enjoyed, really, really grabbed my attention. I'll put some others in the comments fields, other books that I have read so far in January that I didn't have time to get to today on the channel, but you're going to want to add these to your to be read pile. Really, really great. And again, we are off to a fantastic, that may not even describe it adequately, but a fantastic start to reading in 2023. And boy, I can't wait to see what February is going to come out with, what we're going to see in March, April, as we get into spring and summer. That's always a big release time. We get into late summer, August, heading into early fall. I can't wait to see what's coming down the pike. I know we've got so many great novels and great literature coming out by both new authors this year, but also some of our favorites that are coming out with new releases as well. So hopefully this gave you a little bit of a snippet of what's out there, what's been released as we start January 2023, and hope that you'll add those to your to be read pile. Thanks for stopping by the channel. Again, please subscribe, leave comments in the comments fields below. Hope you'll check out these books. If you've read any of these books already, let me know what you think. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. I'd love to know your thoughts and comments and perspectives on them. Thanks for stopping by the channel. Stay well. See you someplace soon, I hope.